There is a time, place and weather conditions to wear just a base layer. There's also the time, place and weather conditions to wear a waterproof jacket, whether it's a 3-layer heavy Gore-Tex jacket like this, or a much lighter Gore-Tex pack-light jacket like this. And of course, there's also the time, place and weather conditions to wear a warm, insulating jacket, whether it's something like this 4-season downfill jacket from Montaigne designed to keep you warm in the depths of winter, or a much thinner synthetic insulation like this jacket just designed to keep the chill off you on those spring to autumn months. There is a challenge with all of those time, places and weather conditions, and that's what I'm setting out to address in this video. Now, when you think about those 3 examples I've just given you, they're all quite extreme, aren't they? It's either hot enough you can strip down to your base layer, or it's not. Or it's wet enough that you need to put on a hard shell Gore-Tex equivalent jacket, or it's not. Or it's cold enough that you need to put on a dedicated insulating layer, or it's not. And I think that can be a real challenge for knowing what to wear, because much of the time in the UK, certainly here in the Snowdonia National Park, it isn't really any of those extremes. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it's fantastic weather here and I'm out in shorts and a base layer top. Other times I've got full Gore-Tex on. Other times I could even be walking in an insulating layer if it's that cold. But be under no illusion, those occasions added together are still the minority of the time. The majority of the time, we've got the sort of weather conditions that we've got today. It's grey, it's miserable, it's overcast. There's a heavy cloud in the sky, so no sunlight is coming through to keep me warm. Snowdonia is a coastal national park, so it's easily bringing wind in off the Irish Sea, which at times can be chilly. Sometimes it can bring with it very light showers. Those annoying showers that are light enough or they're heavy enough that you don't want to get your base layer wet, but you don't want to be putting on a full Gore-Tex jacket because the shower's kind of over almost as quickly as it started, but then it'll be back again, but then it'll stop again, but they're very light showers. Being a national park, being at a relatively high elevation, you get low-lying cloud, you get mist, you get hill fog, you get all the sorts of things that you'd expect when going up in the mountains. And that can be a real tricky thing to do because at times you don't need a full Gore-Tex jacket on. You don't need a full insulating layer on. What you need is something that will handle slightly damp weather, the odd light shower. You need something that will keep the wind off you and maintain a warm layer of air around you without needing to go the whole hog and put a full hard shell Gore-Tex jacket on or an insulating jacket. And that's what I want to have a chat with you about now. All of that brings me very nicely onto the subject of soft shell jackets. I referred to hard shell jackets a few moments ago when I was, putting Gore-Tex and equivalent type jackets under that. I'm moving on to soft shell jackets now. I'm wearing a soft shell jacket right now, and that's what I want to do a bit of a review about. But let me explain firstly what they are. They are not a waterproof jacket like a Gore-Tex jacket would be, but they've certainly got water repellent tendencies. They will certainly be up to handling a light shower or some hill mist or fog, something like that. Because they're not 100% waterproof, they are therefore more breathable than a Gore-Tex or equivalent type jacket. They have an element of windproofness to them. So, this is a very, very windproof jacket. Inside the jacket, there's a very lightly brushed, I'm going to use the word fleece. I don't think it's probably the right technical term, but it's a very light brushed fleece material in a gridlock pattern inside. That helps to provide an extra layer of insulation, but that grid within it also helps to evaporate the moisture. It helps that air to flow around and for it to be dispersed through the garment. They're the perfect solution, in my opinion, when you need a jacket that will keep light showers at bay and keep a chilly wind off you without needing to go to the extremes that we've spoken about earlier on in this video. I've owned a soft shell jacket of one description or another for probably 20 to 25 years. The previous one I had prior to this lasted me until about 3 or 4 months ago. It's lasted me the best part of 2 decades, but I've recently upgraded and I've got myself this Keela Hydron soft shell jacket, and I've been using it for about 4 months. This is the 4th month I've been using it, and I've got to be honest, I've been blown away by how much this sort of technology that goes into these jackets has moved on. Thought you might be interested in that, so let me give you a quick review of this Keela Hydron soft shell jacket. Now, you know me, when I do kit reviews, I don't slavishly go through every listed bullet point feature, because to be honest, you can find that probably more accurately than I can remember it on a website. So below this video in the YouTube description, I'm going to place a link so you can go and take a look at the manufacturer specifics of this jacket. But there were several things that really have sort of really made me sit up and take notice of this jacket over the past 4 months or so. Prior to owning this jacket, I owned a Mountain Equipment G2 Alpine guide jacket. It was a soft shell jacket. It did not have a helmet compatible hood. The hood was quite snug around the head. There is zero way you'd have been able to get it over a helmet. I didn't really think a great deal about that until I've just taken up climbing again and was wearing this jacket and realised I can put the hood up and over the helmet, fully adjustable. Meaning, and this is really important, meaning that if I'm in a situation where I'm wearing a helmet, I want to keep wearing that helmet until it's safe not to. I don't want to be having to take it off to put my hood up and take it off again to take my hood down. I just want to move the helmet up and down and keep the helmet on. So I'd never thought about the impact of a helmet compatible hoods until I got a jacket that had a helmet compatible hood. Really, really big plus point. Another big plus point for me with this is how incredibly light it is. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not the lightest jacket you're ever going to find by any stretch, but when I compared this with my Mountain Equipment jacket, it's a significant difference between the two, especially considering that this has got more features than that jacket. So again, it shows you just how much material technology moves on, certainly over 20 years, and how I can get a more fully featured jacket in this compared to what I was using previously. It's got a great fit for a harness. It's a slightly longer fitting than my Mountain Equipment one, which is a blessing, to be honest, because I've got quite a long torso. So longer fitting, it means I can get a harness fitted on this well when I'm climbing or scrambling and still keep the hem of this low down, keeping the tops of my thighs and my top of my ass cheeks, my ample ass cheeks can be kept warm from this jacket as well. There's some other things that stood out with me with this jacket that perhaps aren't about the jacket as such, but it's about its heritage. This is from a business called Keela. Now, Keela were on my radar when I was back in the army. I had several pair of lightweight walking trousers from them. And I must admit, I'll be honest, they've fallen off my radar a little bit. And I don't really know why. I'm kind of kicking myself because they're a UK-based company. They're based in Scotland, which means that when I buy kit from them, it's kind of going back into the UK economy, which is no bad thing. Big tick in the box for me there. Their gear is manufactured in that neck of the woods. So from an import perspective, from a sustainability and environmental perspective, it's less impactful than if I was buying stuff that was manufactured or shipped in from overseas. So a big tick in the box for me there. Again, these aren't really things about the jacket, but they're about that heritage of where the jacket is coming from. Apologies for any background noise, but I've got Willow with me. And the third thing, and this is really, really important, but for many years now, they've been designing their gear alongside, in partnership with, in collaboration with the military, emergency services, mountain rescue. So what that tells me is kits such as this that they're designing, it's been put through its paces and it's been advised upon by people who don't just do this as a hobby like I do, and don't just do this because they've got a degree in commercial textiles or something. Their job is to use this under incredibly adverse, life-threatening conditions where the gear you are wearing matters. So that's another huge tick in the box for me as well about buying this from Keela, because of the sort of heritage, British economy, and the fact of who they work with to develop these products. Another feature of this jacket that I really, really like, and it's quite ironic because I'd never known it had been a problem until I got this jacket and saw the alternative, and then think back and think, oh yeah, that was a real faff, but it never dawned on me that it was a faff. And it's this. Pit zips are really important in lots of jackets because they allow you to dump heat from the armpit area and the torso area without necessarily breaking the seal on the front of your jacket or taking it off. It's a quick way of dumping heat and getting an airflow through. Most pit zips in the jacket I've got, they kind of start possibly midway down the tricep, they run into the armpit and they finish, sort of a couple of hand spans below the armpit, upper torso, this area here. They sort of run in this area down here, 50% either side of the armpit area. That's great until you're wearing a rucksack. And I don't know about you, but when you've got a rucksack on, the strap goes in that very area where your zip is going to run through. And it can be a real faff. And thinking back now and having used my 4-season Gore-Tex jacket recently, which works like that, when you've got a pack on, it's a real faff to kind of get it under the straps. And when you're zipping it back up again, you've kind of got to work your way into under the rucksack strap and pull it through. They've solved this because the zip starts in the armpit area and goes down the torso there. So is it a pit zip? Yeah, I'd call it a pit zip because it starts and finishes in the armpit area. But what it more does is it exposes the area of your torso rather than your armpit, which means it's far, far easier to get it zipped down to ventilate or get it zipped up to stop ventilating if you are wearing a pack and it's cutting off those armpit areas because of the rucksack strap. Neatly thought out solution. Hadn't really realised it was ever a problem until I started wearing this jacket with a pack, and it's just so much easier to dump that heat and get some extra ventilation flowing around the body. It's really hard. It's really hard for me to pick fault in this. The fit is great. The price was phenomenal, to be honest, compared to what some of the perhaps more well-known manufacturers would charge for a soft shell jacket. The fit, the cut, the features. There's only one thing, and I'm probably being a bit nitpicky here, but it's just something that sort of just jumped out at me and I spotted it, was there's some great chest pockets here for sort of stowing that gear that you need to get to and you don't want it around your waist in case your rucksack strap is there or because your harness is there. Decent ample pockets, can get quite a lot in each one. What they don't have inside them though is an attachment point for any gear that you want to attach. Now, there's my humble compass there. It could be your mobile phone in a case. It could be a GPS unit. It could be a map case. It could be whatever it needs to be that you desperately want to keep attached to you. And there's no gear loop attachment point in there. What there is that I've been using in lieu of that is there is quite an ample finger loop toggle, whatever you want to call it, attachment point there to make it easier to zip and unzip those pockets when you're wearing gloves. So I can clip or tie my gear loop to that and I can tuck that away. The only disadvantage of it is that it can lead to, and it has led to, and it does lead to, that kind of cordage starting to work its way out of your jacket and flap about in the wind and get in the way and get caught in things and so on and so forth. Is it the end of the world? No. No, 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 no. It is not the end of the world. If I was bothered about it that much, I would get Mrs. T to get the old sewing machine out and sew some form of gear loops inside this. It's just a minor point. I thought it's a great idea. We talk a lot, I talk a great deal about making sure that you've got your critical gear attached to you. It just seemed an oversight not to have some gear loop attachment points inside the pockets, but be under no illusion, they will suffice in absence of any dedicated gear loops. So that's the Keela Hydron soft shell jackets. I usually wait until I've had gear for about 12 months or so before reviewing it, but I've done this after only 4 months because I've hammered this jacket. I've taken it out in every conceivable opportunity where it would have fitted the bill. If it's been bitterly cold or soaking wet, it hasn't come with me. I've taken the jackets for that. This has been out a lot. It's been out climbing, it's been out scrambling, it's been out walking, it's been out dog walking, it's been out paddle boarding. It's been out in every possible opportunity for me to take it out. It's had a good old hammering, perhaps most so a few weeks ago when I went out climbing with it. I was lead climbing, I was teaching a friend of mine to climb and I had it on then and it was getting scuffed on rocks and it was being abraded by the rope as I was taking it in, and I had a harness being taken on and off and metalware brushing up against it. It still looks as if I'd just taken it out of the bag when I received it. So all in all, if you don't have a soft shell jacket and you're kind of having to go overkill with a waterproof jacket, fully waterproof jacket when you don't really need it, or a full insulated jacket when you don't really need it. If you're looking for something to fit that midway point between the two, then I'd strongly suggest looking in the market for soft shell jackets. And if you want a personal recommendation, then I'd suggest having a look at the Keela Hydron soft gel jacket, the one I'm wearing now. Also comes, I think, in 2 of the colours. One of them is a blue, can't remember the third colour, I might have got that wrong, but there's definitely, I think, a bluish colour in addition to this high visibility one that I like for being out on the hills. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully you've learnt a little bit about what soft shell jacket does and the gap that it fills in your outdoors wardrobe. And if you're in the market for one, check out the link below. It's not an affiliate link, it'll just take you straight through to their website for you having to look in a bit more detail. If you've got one of these, if you've got a soft shell jacket, let me know in the comments below what soft shell jacket you're using and how you rate it as well. It might be useful for people coming along that's new to this term, that want to have a read about what's out there on the market. As always folks, stay safe and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.